Can I get through this entire video without crying while talking about Matt Bellamy's divorce? Matt Bellamy, the iconic frontman of the British rock band Muse, is in the headlines for a rather sad reason. After 7 years of marriage, he's filed for divorce. This news has sent shockwaves through the music world, leaving fans and followers wondering what led to this decision. Reports are emerging that Matt Bellamy has indeed filed for divorce, but details are still sketchy. The news hasn't been officially commented on by the parties involved, which has only fueled speculation. Fans are taking to social media to express their surprise and sadness. The lack of information hasn't stopped the rumor mill, with many trying to piece together what might have led to the breakdown of his marriage. As we try to make sense of this news, let's take a step back and look at Matt's marriage. He was married to supermodel Kate Hudson, and their relationship was often considered one of Hollywood's most intriguing. They started dating in 2010, got engaged in 2011, and tied the knot in 2016. The couple has a son together, but it seems their fairytale wasn't without its challenges. Their marriage wasn't without its share of public scrutiny, especially given their high profiles. There have been whispers of challenges in their relationship, but nothing that would have suggested a divorce was on the horizon. Kate Hudson has been quite active on social media, often sharing glimpses into her life, but there's been a noticeable absence of joint posts or statements from the couple recently. One aspect that's caught everyone's attention is how this news affects Muse's fanbase and the band's image. Matt Bellamy is not just any musician, he's a rock icon for many. His music often deals with themes of love, loss, and introspection, which makes this personal development all the more poignant. Fans are undoubtedly wondering how this will influence his songwriter and the band's future projects. The news of Matt Bellamy filing for divorce has left many in the dark, searching for answers. What prompted this decision after 7 years of marriage? Was it a sudden change, or has there been a long-standing issue? The specifics remain unclear, but one thing is certain, this news has come as a shock to many. Before going any further, however, it's important to separate what is known from what is being speculated. When a celebrity divorce story begins circulating, it can be very easy for assumptions to become accepted as facts. A headline can quickly become a social media discussion, and a discussion can quickly become a rumor. Fans may try to interpret photographs, old interviews, social media posts, or the absence of a post as evidence of something happening privately. But relationships are complicated, and people outside a marriage rarely know what is truly happening behind closed doors. That is particularly true when the people involved are public figures. Matt Bellamy has spent much of his adult life in the spotlight. As the lead singer, guitarist, pianist, and primary creative force associated with Muse, he has built an enormous international following. His music has reached millions of people, and his performances have made him one of the most recognizable figures in modern rock. Kate Hudson has also spent decades in the public eye. She has built a successful acting career, established herself as a recognizable celebrity, and developed her own public identity beyond her famous family background. When two people with that level of visibility come together, their relationship naturally attracts attention. Fans want to know how they met. They want to know what their relationship is like. They want to see photographs. They want to hear stories about their family. And when something appears to change, people immediately start asking questions. That is exactly what has happened here. The reported divorce has generated sadness, surprise, and curiosity among fans who remember the relationship from its earliest days. Matt Bellamy and Kate Hudson's relationship began in 2010. At the time, their connection quickly became a topic of interest because of their respective careers and public profiles. Hudson was already an established Hollywood actress, while Bellamy was internationally known as the frontman of Muse. Their relationship brought together two different worlds. One came from Hollywood. The other came from the world of British rock music. Yet the two appeared to find a connection. They became engaged in 2011, and their relationship continued to attract attention. They also welcomed a son together. For fans watching from the outside, it was easy to view the relationship as another celebrity love story that seemed to be developing successfully. But celebrity relationships are still relationships. They involve real people. They involve emotions. They involve disagreements. They involve responsibilities. They involve family. And they involve decisions that the public may never fully understand. That is one of the hardest things for fans to accept. When people become emotionally attached to celebrities, they can begin to feel as though they know them personally. They see interviews. They watch performances. They follow social media. They see family photographs. They hear stories. Over time, an image of the person develops. But that image is never the complete picture. Celebrities choose what they share. They also have private lives that remain completely separate from their public careers. That means that when a relationship ends, fans may be left with very few answers. They may know when the couple met. They may remember their engagement. They may remember family moments. They may have seen photographs from special occasions. But they may never know what happened inside the relationship. And perhaps they don't need to. If the reports about Matt Bellamy's divorce are accurate, the most important thing is that the people involved deserve privacy and respect while dealing with a deeply personal situation. That does not make the story less significant. It simply means that speculation should not replace facts. The lack of detailed information has understandably created curiosity. People are asking what happened. They are asking whether there was a specific event. They are asking whether the relationship had been struggling for a long time. They are asking whether the decision was mutual. They are asking how their family is handling the situation. But without verified information from the people involved, or reliable reporting that provides specific details, those questions remain unanswered. And sometimes, unanswered questions are simply unanswered questions. It can be tempting to fill the gaps. Fans might look at social media and try to find clues. They might notice that the couple has not appeared together recently. They might revisit older interviews. They might compare photographs. They might analyze captions. They might interpret changes in someone's online activity. But none of those things necessarily reveal what is happening in a marriage. People can be less active on social media for countless reasons. Couples can spend time apart because of work. They can choose not to share their private lives online. They can have disagreements and resolve them. They can experience personal changes without announcing them publicly. So it is important not to turn ordinary behavior into evidence of something more serious. That is particularly important when discussing divorce. Divorce is emotional. Even when two people ultimately agree that separating is the right decision, the process can still be difficult. There can be sadness. There can be uncertainty. There can be family considerations. There can be changes in daily life. And when children are involved, the situation becomes even more complicated. Matt Bellamy and Kate Hudson have a son together. That means that regardless of what happens between them as a couple, they will always have a connection as parents. Their relationship may change, but their responsibilities toward their child remain important. That is something that fans should keep in mind when discussing celebrity divorces. The story is not simply about two famous people ending a marriage. It is also about a family navigating a major life change. The public may focus on the headline. The people involved have to live through the reality. That difference is significant. For fans of Muse, there is another layer to this story. Matt Bellamy's music has always carried an emotional intensity. Muse is known for dramatic performances, powerful arrangements, ambitious themes, and songs that explore subjects ranging from relationships and emotion to politics, technology, fear, and the human condition. Bellamy's songwriter has often been deeply personal and expressive. Because of that, fans naturally wonder whether major life experiences will influence his future music. This is not unusual. Artists often draw inspiration from their experiences. Pain can influence creativity. Change can influence creativity. Love can influence creativity. Loss can influence creativity. Reflection can influence creativity. For a songwriter, personal experiences can sometimes become part of the creative process. But it would be unfair to assume that a specific future song will be about a divorce simply because an artist has experienced one. Artists have many sources of inspiration. They can write about fictional characters. They can explore social issues. They can reflect on relationships. They can examine broader ideas. They can create something entirely unrelated to their personal lives. So while fans may naturally be curious about how this development could affect Bellamy's songwriter, there is no way to know what he will choose to create in the future. What we can say is that life experiences often influence artists in unexpected ways. And Bellamy has spent his career turning emotion into music. That makes his future creative work especially interesting. For Muse fans, the question is not simply whether Bellamy's personal life will change. They also wonder whether this moment will influence the band's future. Muse has built a massive global audience. The band's music has remained influential across generations. Their concerts have become major events. Their albums have explored ambitious concepts. And Bellamy's voice and songwriter have become central to the band's identity. A major personal development in his life could potentially affect his creative perspective. But that does not necessarily mean it will affect the band negatively. Musicians are professionals. They can continue working even while navigating personal challenges. Sometimes creative work can provide a sense of stability during difficult periods. Sometimes it can become a distraction. Sometimes it can become a way of processing emotions. And sometimes an artist simply continues working as normal. Again, there is no way to predict exactly how Bellamy will respond. What is clear is that fans are paying attention. They care about the person behind the music. That is one of the unique relationships between musicians and their audiences. A singer can write a song decades ago, and someone can hear it today and connect with it personally. A lyric can mean one thing to the artist and something completely different to the listener. A song can become part of someone's memory. It can remind them of a relationship. It can help them through a difficult moment. It can become associated with a major event in their life. That emotional connection is one reason fans feel so invested when something major happens to a musician. They are not simply following a celebrity. They are following someone whose work may have been part of their own lives. That is why news about Bellamy can feel personal to Muse fans. They have listened to his music. They have attended concerts. They have followed the band's journey. They have watched Bellamy grow and change throughout his career. And now they are watching another chapter unfold. Still, there is an important line between caring about an artist and invading their privacy. Fans can express sympathy without demanding details. They can discuss the news without creating rumors. They can acknowledge the sadness without assuming they know the cause. And they can continue supporting the music without expecting the artist to explain every part of his personal life. That may be especially important during a difficult moment. Celebrity culture often encourages people to believe that public figures are the public explanations. But fame does not eliminate the right to privacy. Being famous does not mean every personal decision has to be explained publicly. Divorce is a private family matter. If Bellamy or Hudson choose to speak about it, fans can listen. If they choose not to, that decision should also be respected. The public has already received enough information to understand that the reported situation is significant. Everything else should be approached carefully. That does not mean we cannot discuss the emotional impact of the news. It is understandable that fans are sad. It is understandable that people who admired the relationship may feel disappointed. It is understandable that people may have questions. But sadness should not turn into speculation. There is a difference between saying, "This news is sad," and saying, "This is definitely what caused the divorce." The first expresses a reaction. The second claims knowledge that may not exist. That distinction is especially important in celebrity reporting. Rumors can spread incredibly quickly. One person makes an assumption. Another person repeats it. A third person posts it on social media. Soon, thousands of people are discussing something that was never confirmed. That can be harmful. It can affect the people involved. It can affect their families. And it can create a completely inaccurate narrative. So as we talk about Matt Bellamy's reported divorce, the responsible approach is to stay with what is known. The relationship lasted for years. The couple built a family together. They lived much of their lives under public attention. And now there are reports that the marriage is ending. Those facts alone are significant. We do not need to invent additional details. We do not need to choose a villain. We do not need to decide who is responsible. Relationships are rarely that simple. There are usually two people with different perspectives, different emotions, and different experiences. A marriage can end without there being one simple explanation. Sometimes people grow apart. Sometimes circumstances change. Sometimes priorities change. Sometimes two people decide that continuing together is no longer right for them. And sometimes the reasons remain private. That is part of life. It can happen to ordinary people. It can happen to celebrities. It can happen to people who appear incredibly happy from the outside. That is why celebrity divorces can be such a powerful reminder that appearances are not always reality. We see photographs. We see public appearances. We see interviews. We see celebrations. But we do not see everything. A couple can look happy in a photograph and still be experiencing private challenges. A couple can be completely fine while simply choosing to keep their relationship off social media. A missing photograph does not automatically mean something is wrong. And a beautiful photograph does not prove that everything is perfect. Social media gives us carefully selected moments. It does not give us an entire life. That is something worth remembering whenever celebrity relationships become the subject of intense public discussion. Matt Bellamy and Kate Hudson's relationship has been watched for years. Their engagement was reported. Their family life attracted attention. Their public appearances were photographed. And their individual careers continued to grow. For many fans, they represented an interesting combination of music and Hollywood. That is part of why news of a possible divorce feels surprising. People often assume that relationships that last several years are secure, but length alone cannot tell us what happens inside a relationship. 7 years is a significant amount of time. During 7 years, people change, careers change, families change, priorities change, people grow. Sometimes they grow together, sometimes they grow in different directions. A relationship has to adapt to those changes. Not every relationship does. That does not necessarily mean anyone failed. Sometimes two people simply reach a point where they recognize that their lives need to move in different directions. The public may never know exactly what happened, and perhaps that is okay. The focus should be on the people involved and their future. For Bellamy, that future includes his music. Muse remains an important part of his identity. Fans will continue to listen to the band's songs. They will continue attending concerts. They will continue discussing albums. They will continue analyzing lyrics. And they will continue wondering what comes next. It is possible that this experience will influence Bellamy's creative work. It is also possible that it will not. Artists do not always turn personal pain directly into art. Sometimes they process experiences privately. Sometimes they use completely different subjects as inspiration. Sometimes they simply continue working. We should not expect a musician to explain his emotions through his next album. If he chooses to write about personal experiences, that is his decision. If he chooses not to, that deserves equal respect. The same applies to Kate Hudson. She has her own career. She has her own public identity. She has her own family responsibilities. And she deserves the same privacy. It is easy for audiences to focus on the more famous person in a story. But relationships involve multiple people. Each person has their own perspective. Each person experiences the end of a relationship differently. That is why reducing a divorce to a simple celebrity headline can overlook the human reality behind it. There may be sadness. There may be relief. There may be uncertainty. There may be complicated emotions. There may be moments of acceptance and moments of difficulty. All of those emotions can exist at the same time. That is another reason why it is impossible to know exactly how someone is feeling simply by looking at their social media. A person can smile in a photograph while dealing with something difficult privately. That does not mean the photograph is fake. It simply means people are capable of experiencing many emotions at once. Celebrities are no different. This is perhaps one of the most important lessons from the situation. Fame does not protect people from heartbreak. Money does not guarantee a perfect relationship. Success does not eliminate personal challenges. Being admired does not make someone immune to difficult decisions. Even people who appear to have everything can experience moments of uncertainty. That is why the news can feel so emotional. Fans sometimes look at celebrity relationships as examples of perfect love stories. When those relationships end, the illusion can be shaken. But perhaps the healthier way to view them is simply as human relationships. They can be beautiful. They can be meaningful. They can last for years. And sometimes they can come to an end. That does not erase everything that came before. The good memories still existed. The experiences still mattered. The family that was created still matters. The years shared together still happened. A relationship ending does not mean that every moment within it was meaningless. That is something worth remembering. The same is true for the couple's son. A family can change without disappearing. Parents can separate while continuing to care for their child. The structure of a family may look different, but love and responsibility can continue. That is why it is important to avoid framing divorce as the complete destruction of a family. Sometimes it is the beginning of a different family arrangement. The transition can be difficult, but it does not automatically mean that relationships disappear. For fans, the best response may simply be compassion. Instead of demanding explanations, offer support. Instead of spreading rumors, wait for verified information. Instead of choosing sides, remember that the people involved are human beings. That may sound simple, but in the age of social media, it can be surprisingly difficult. People want immediate answers. They want a complete story. They want someone to blame. But real life rarely provides neat explanations. Sometimes the truth takes time. Sometimes the truth never becomes public. And sometimes the people involved are the only ones who truly know what happened. That is okay. As fans, we can still care. We can still be sad. We can still appreciate the music. We can still remember the relationship's public history. But we can also respect the boundaries around private life. For Muse fans, there may also be an understandable concern about Bellamy's emotional well-being. The reality of divorce can be difficult for anyone. But again, we should not assume how he feels. We can simply acknowledge that major personal changes can be challenging. Artists often have to continue performing while dealing with personal situations. That can be incredibly demanding. Imagine standing on a stage in front of thousands of people, while your private life is changing. The audience expects energy. The audience expects confidence. The audience expects a performance. But behind the scenes, the person may be dealing with completely different emotions. That contrast can be difficult. At the same time, performing can sometimes provide an escape. For a musician, being on stage can create a sense of purpose. Music can provide structure. Fans can provide support. A familiar environment can feel comforting during uncertain times. Again, we cannot know exactly how Bellamy experiences that, but his music has always had an emotional quality that resonates with people. That emotional connection may become even more meaningful to fans during difficult periods. People often return to music when they are struggling. They listen to songs that understand what they cannot explain themselves. They find comfort in familiar voices. They find strength in melodies. They find memories in lyrics. That is one of the reasons musicians matter so much. They become part of people's emotional lives. Bellamy and Muse have been part of that experience for countless fans. So while his personal situation is private, the emotional response from fans is understandable. People care because the music matters to them. The important thing is to express that care respectfully. There is also a larger conversation about celebrity relationships. Why do we become so invested in them? Part of the reason is that relationships are universal. Almost everyone understands love. Almost everyone understands disappointment. Almost everyone understands the desire for connection. When celebrities experience relationship changes, people recognize elements of their own lives. The difference is that celebrities experience those moments under public attention. Their relationships become stories. Their private decisions become headlines. Their emotions become subjects of discussion. That can be incredibly difficult. It is easy to forget the human being behind the headline. A headline might say that a celebrity filed for divorce, but behind that headline are years of memories, conversations, decisions, family experiences, and emotions that cannot be captured in a few words. That is why we should approach stories like this with care. The public deserves information, but people deserve dignity. Both can exist at the same time. We can talk about the reported divorce without pretending to know every detail. We can discuss Bellamy's career without speculating about his private emotions. We can remember his relationship with Hudson without turning their personal life into entertainment. And we can continue supporting Muse without expecting Bellamy to explain his private situation. Perhaps the most respectful thing we can do is give the story time. More information may eventually become available. Bellamy may speak. Hudson may speak. Official documents may provide additional context. Or both may decide to remain private. Until then, speculation will only create noise. And sometimes the best approach is simply to wait. For fans, waiting can be difficult. People want answers immediately. But patience matters, especially when someone's family and private life are involved. The story is already emotional enough without adding unsupported claims. So as we look at the reported divorce, let's remember the larger picture. Matt Bellamy is not only a rock star, he is also a father. He is a partner going through a major life transition. He is a person. Kate Hudson is not only an actress, she is also a mother. She is a person navigating her own life. Both deserve respect. Their son deserves privacy. And fans can still express support without knowing every detail. That may be the most important message here. Sometimes we do not need to know everything to care. Sometimes we can simply say that we hope everyone involved finds peace. We can hope their family is able to navigate the transition with compassion. We can hope that they are surrounded by people who support them. And we can hope that whatever comes next allows everyone involved to move forward. For Bellamy, that may mean continuing with Muse. It may mean spending time with family. It may mean focusing on new creative projects. It may mean taking time to process everything privately. For Hudson, it may mean continuing her career and focusing on her family. Whatever happens next, their lives will continue. And that is something worth remembering when a celebrity relationship ends. A divorce may mark the end of one chapter. It does not necessarily mean the end of someone's story. People rebuild. They adapt. They grow. They find new routines. They discover new priorities. They move forward. Sometimes the next chapter is difficult. Sometimes it is unexpectedly beautiful. And sometimes it takes time to understand what that chapter will look like. That is true for celebrities just as it is true for everyone else. So, can I get through this entire video without crying while talking about Matt Bellamy's divorce? Honestly, maybe not. Because there is something undeniably emotional about watching a relationship that many people followed for years reach a reported turning point. Fans remember the beginning. They remember the engagement. They remember the family moments. They remember seeing Bellamy and Hudson together. And now they are being asked to process a very different story. But perhaps the healthiest response is not to focus on the sadness alone. Instead, we can recognize that life changes, relationships evolve, people grow, and sometimes the best thing two people can do is find a way to move forward separately, while continuing to respect the history they share. That does not make the situation easy. It simply makes it human. For Bellamy, the future may bring new music. For Muse, there may be new creative projects. For Hudson, there will be new chapters in her career and personal life. And for their family, there will be a new reality to navigate. Fans will continue watching from a distance, but hopefully, they will do so with empathy. Because behind every celebrity headline is a real person experiencing a real moment. The reported divorce of Matt Bellamy is a reminder that even people who seem to live extraordinary lives experience ordinary human challenges. They fall in love. They build families. They face difficulties. They make decisions. They change. And sometimes they have to begin again. That does not diminish their achievements. It does not erase their memories. And it does not mean that everything before the divorce was a lie. It simply means that life is complicated. For now, the specifics of the split remain unclear, and it is important not to fill those gaps with rumors. If more verified information emerges, then the conversation can develop based on facts. Until then, the best approach is to respect the privacy of everyone involved. For fans of Matt Bellamy and Muse, there is still plenty to look forward to. His music will continue to matter. Muse's legacy will continue. And whatever comes next creatively could provide another chapter in an already remarkable career. Perhaps this personal experience will influence his future work. Perhaps it will not. Perhaps he will keep those emotions completely private. Only he knows. And he has every right to decide what he wants to share. The same is true for Kate Hudson. Her story belongs to her. Their family's story belongs to them. The public can be interested without becoming intrusive. That balance is important. So if you're feeling saddened by this news, know that you're not alone. Many fans are processing the same emotions. But instead of turning sadness into speculation, let's turn it into compassion. Instead of asking who is to blame, let's remember that relationships are complicated. Instead of assuming we know the reason, let's wait for verified information. And instead of focusing only on the end, let's remember the years that came before it. There was love. There was a family. There were memories. There were experiences. Those things mattered. And even if a relationship changes, that history does not disappear. As for Matt Bellamy, his journey continues. Whether he turns this experience into music, keeps it private, or simply moves forward with his life, that choice belongs to him. As fans, we can support him by continuing to appreciate his work and giving him the space to handle his personal life. The same support can be extended to Kate Hudson, because at the end of the day, this is not just a celebrity story. It is a human story, and human stories are rarely simple. There are no perfect relationships. There are no perfect families. There are no perfect lives. Even the people we admire most experience uncertainty. That may be one of the most important reminders to take from all of this. So, what happens next? We don't know. Will Matt Bellamy speak publicly about the divorce? Will Kate Hudson address it? Will the situation remain private? Will Bellamy's songwriter reflect this chapter? Will Muse's future music take a different direction? Those are questions that only time can answer. For now, we can only follow the verified developments and avoid turning speculation into fact. The news has already created a wave of emotion among fans. But perhaps the most meaningful response is one rooted in respect. Respect the family. Respect the privacy. Respect the uncertainty. And respect the fact that people sometimes have to make difficult decisions for reasons that outsiders may never understand. Matt Bellamy's story is far from over. Neither is Kate Hudson's. Their relationship may be entering a different chapter, but both have careers, families, and futures ahead of them. And perhaps one day, fans will look back at this moment not simply as the end of a marriage, but as one moment in two much larger life stories. For now, all we can do is wait, listen, and let the people involved decide what they want the world to know. If you're as saddened by this news as I am, or if you have any thoughts on what might have led to this, please do share in the comments below. Your insights are valuable, and it's always interesting to hear different perspectives. Just remember to keep the conversation respectful, and avoid spreading unconfirmed claims about people's private lives. And if you're a fan of Matt Bellamy, Muse, Kate Hudson, or celebrity news in general, stay tuned for more updates as verified information becomes available. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more updates on celebrity news, music, relationships, and the stories behind the headlines. Because sometimes the stories that make us emotional are also the ones that remind us that celebrities are human too. And perhaps that is the most important thing to remember about Matt Bellamy's reported divorce. Behind the music, behind the fame, behind the photographs, and behind the headlines, there is simply a person going through a major moment in his life. And sometimes, that's all we really need to know. Thanks for the watching and subscribe.